Let's start by listening to this song sung by Rahat Fateh Ali Khan and Abida Parveen. This is in fact a Qawwali, and to listen to the whole song, click on the link for the iDictionary feature. This Qawwali was written by or composed by Amir Khusrow in the 14th century. So who is Amir Khusrow? Let's find out. Amir Khusrow was a Sufi poet. So he was a Sufi poet who was there in the 14th century, and he is also known as the father of Qawwali. And why was he so famous? Because his songs or his verses were both in Persian as well as Hindi language. He affected the Sufi movement. But what is the Sufi movement? Let's see. The Sufi movement started in 1400 CE, and it started in Persia. At that point of time, just as the Bhakti saints had moved away from their traditional and strict beliefs in Hinduism towards devotion and love for God, the Sufis did the same, and they embraced or they showed their love to God. At this point of time, there were two sects of Islam, the Shias and the Sunnis, and there were constant rifts between them. Now, the masses were really dissatisfied, and to counter that, the Sufi movement emerged. Sufi movement propagated religious tolerance, universal brotherhood, and the oneness of God. According to it, there is only one God, but different religions follow their own path to reach that one God. At that point of time, there was a rift in Islam, and so there were two sects in Islam. These were the Shias and the Sunnis. Gradually with time, they became enemies. Now, a lot of people were not happy with this. So when they came in contact with the Hindus, the Buddhists and the Greeks, they incorporated or they merged the good ideas from these religions into Islam. And so this was the Sufi movement. So Sufis also moved away from their strict traditional beliefs of Islam, and they focused on devotion towards God. Other than that, the Shias and the Sunnis who were fighting at that point of time, the Sufis asked them to live peacefully, and as they believed in equality and universal brotherhood. So the main teachings in Sufism were Islamic. However, they included or merged other things or other religious practices belonging to different religions into their religious practices. For example, the religious practice like penance, which was taken from Hinduism. So how did it get the name Sufi movement? You see, the word Sufi comes from the word Suf, meaning wool. But what has wool to do with anything like a movement? Well, you see, the Sufi saints used to wear shaggy and coarse garments which were made out of wool, and that is why this movement got the name Sufi movement. The Sufi saints, just like Buddhist monks, used to live a simple life. They used to live in monasteries which were known as khankas. Now, you must have heard the term peer. Just as in Hinduism, our teachers are known as gurus, the Sufis used to call their religious teachers as peer. And a lot of importance was given by the Sufis to this relationship between a peer and his disciples. So how were peers selected? You see, before the death of a peer, he would select his own successor who would later spread his word and his teachings. So that's how the peers were selected, and this was very important. So how did these peers spread their teachings? Well, you see, the message of devotion was spread by singing songs, discussing religious ideas, and teaching their followers. Now, in Sufism, there were a total of 12 Sufi orders. They organized themselves in 12 communities or orders, and these orders were known as silsilas. And each of these orders had a religious teacher called Peer. These orders include the Chishti order, Owaisi order, Qadiriya, Naqshbandi, and all of them are mentioned here. You can even pause the video and read all of them. Now, the Suravadi silsila or order was there in India. While most of the orders believed in leading a life of poverty, they did not believe it. It was founded by Sheikh Bahauddin Zakaria, who was very much inspired by the teachings of Sheikh Shihabuddin Suhrawardi. Hence it gets its name. And therefore, inspired by Sheikh Shihabuddin Suhrawardi, a new Sufi order began in India. This was Suhrawardi order, which had two branches, Shattari and Firdausi. Therefore, we get two main Sufi orders of India, the Chishti order and the Suhrawardi order. So take a look at this picture here. In this you can see the shrine of Sheikh Bahauddin Zakaria, which is there in Pakistan. Now you must remember Amir Khusrow, right? He was a very famous poet and singer. So he had a teacher whose name was Nizamuddin Aulia, Hazrat Nizamuddin Aulia, and as you can see from this picture, this is in fact the shrines, and inside these buildings you can find their tombs. Here you can find Hazrat Nizamuddin Aulia's tomb, whereas here you can find Amir Khusrow's tomb. So this is in fact a Dargah, Nizamuddin Dargah, and in masjids only Muslim people can be seen, whereas in temples you can find Hindu people. However, in Dargahs you can find people from both of these religions. That is how the Sufi movement also united people. Now one day, Amir Khusrow and Nizamuddin Aulia were standing on the banks of the Yamuna river when they saw some people, some Hindu people, bathing in the same river. Seeing this, Nizamuddin Aulia composed a few verses which were Har Qaum Rast Rahe, Dine Va Qibla Gahe, which meant that every sect has its own right path of worship, which means that every religion has their own way to worship their own gods. Amir Khusrow was very impressed by how religiously tolerant Nizamuddin Aulia's views were, and so he added his own lines to this verse. He said, Man Qibla Rast Kadambar Samt Kaj Kulahe, which meant I, however, turn my face towards the tilted cap. And Nizamuddin Aulia used to wear a tilted cap. So according to him, he used to worship his own teacher. Now take a look at this picture here. Do you know what this place is? If your answer is Ajmer Sharif Dargah, then you're absolutely right. So this in fact is the burial place for Khwaja Muinuddin Chishti, who was the one who established the Chishti order here in India. And so this is a very important place. This is a pilgrimage site for both Hindus and Muslims, as Khwaja Muinuddin Chishti was followed by both Hindus and Muslims. So in a way, Dargahs actually bring people together from various different religions. Now, what were the impacts of Sufism? Firstly, Sufism promoted the feelings of universal brotherhood. According to it, we are all equal in the eyes of God. Other than that, Sufism preached that there is only one God. However, there are various means to reach that same one God, and so we should all be tolerant towards different religions. Now, what was happening is that Sufism and its teachings were very much similar to what the Bhakti saints were also preaching at that point of time. Because of this, the Bhakti movement became popular too. Now, other than that, at this point of time, there were various poets and musicians such as Amir Khusrow and Muhammad Jayasi. So they were composing many poems, right? So they composed poems in the common languages so that people could understand their poetry. Amir Khusrow usually used to write in Persian. However, after seeing what the people would understand more, he made his own language and he started writing in Hindi as well. So all of this played a great role in promoting the vernacular literature. So these were the various impacts of Sufism. So now we have studied both Bhakti movement and the Sufi movement. So let us try to understand the similarities that was there in these movements. Firstly, in the Bhakti movement, saints were given a lot of importance. In fact, these were considered the people who would guide their followers into the right track of devotion towards God, right? Similarly, in the Sufi movement, similar importance was given to the peers. So these were, both of these movements, they believed that spiritual and religious guidance is needed, and for that they gave importance to both peers and saints. Take a look at this picture here. Here you can see Peer Dastgir. During the 18th century in the Mughal rule, such portraits were made of important religious heads. Whereas in the next picture you can see a man devoted to his God, and that was what Sufi movement was all about. Now let us see some more similarities between the Bhakti movement and the Sufi movement. Firstly, they both preached in the local languages so that more and more people could understand their teachings and accept their movements. Other than that, they both preached their messages through devotional songs and dances. They both rejected complex rituals and customs as a means to seek God. So they both said that such complex rituals and ceremonies was not what was important. In fact, your love towards God is what was important. Other than that, they both believed in equality and they welcomed people from all backgrounds, irrespective of their profession or caste. That was another one of the kalams written by Amir Khusrow, which is being sung in modern day. So we have come to the end of Sufi movement, and we understood how the Sufi movement began here in India, and its teachings of universal brotherhood and equality taught people how to live peacefully amongst each other, and even brought the Muslims and Hindus and the other communities together. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon. You can also register for free on DeltaStep.com or download the DeltaStep app and get easy access to more than 5,000 amazing videos as per your school syllabus. Master each topic with our adaptive practice technology. Get million-plus questions with step-by-step solutions and unlimited mock tests. Get all your doubts resolved instantly. Learn via games and get a chance to win amazing prizes like PlayStations and iPads. So, at DeltaStep, learning is not just fun and easy, it's rewarding too. So, register for free now.